Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take my time to discuss what I hope is an unintended consequence of some hasty changes to this legislation before it passed. As a result of this legislation, citizens of visa waiver program countries can no longer travel to the U.S. visa-free if they are dual nationals of Iran, Iraq, Sudan, or Syria, solely due to their ancestry. And let that sink in. I mean, this feels like discrimination to me, because if the countries, the citizens of those countries we're excluding, if those countries in the visa waiver program decide to reciprocate, there's a category of millions of Americans, freedom-loving Americans, that could be exposed to discrimination as a result merely of who their parents were. And by this I mean, you could be swept into this program of discrimination even if you've never been to one of these four countries, if you are solely the progeny of somebody from one of these countries, because three of the countries consider you to be a citizen of that country, even if you weren't born there, so long as your father was a citizen of that country. This is a great concern to me. There's a piece of legislation that I have introduced. The primary sponsor is Justin Amash. It's H.R. 4380. It's called the Equal Protection and Travel Act of 2016 that would remedy this problem. And Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record 2 letters in support of H.R. 4380. The Equal Protection and Travel Act of 2016. The first letter is from the American Civil Liberties Union, and the second letter is signed by 65 separate groups representing a wide range of viewpoints and membership.
That objection.
So while we've got the witnesses here who are obviously experts on the visa waiver program, I want to ask, for instance, Mr. Heifetz, and anybody's welcome to answer this, of what national security advantage would there be to excluding people from this program merely because their parents were citizens of one of these countries? Mr. Heifetz.
None that are apparent.
Please elaborate.
I think a couple things are worth noting. First, the most significant expansion of the visa waiver program occurred in the Bush administration. This was a security program properly viewed as one. Secretary Chertoff has spoken on numerous occasions about the visa waiver program enhancing U.S. security, and the reason for that is the trade-off is one between what is typically a short interview by a consular officer. In exchange, rather than having that, we get heightened security standards by our visa waiver program partners, particularly including lots of data, to some of the questions that have come up, lots of data about who it is who intends to travel here, data that we wouldn't otherwise have access to. So I think part of the points, the point that has been made several times is that when we begin, if we chip away at the advantages to the member states, to the VWP member states, we risk the security that comes with the additional information about who those people are and the heightened security standards that our VWP members provide.
Well, let me elaborate about this category of individuals that's going to be discriminated against, and then ask another question. So this category includes people who may have fled here from those countries, for instance, in the 70s from Iran, who were seeking relief from that regime and have never gone back, never returned to that country. Do we have any evidence? Is there a single example of somebody who came to this country and is a dual citizen of one of these countries that presented a terroristic threat that, with credible evidence? And I'm talking about people who are either born in the United States and became, by virtue of their parentage, a citizen of one of these countries, or fled here and never went back. Is there a single example?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mansour Arbabziar.
involved in a plot to try and murder the Saudi ambassador to the United States in October 2011. Iranian-American national living in Texas, instructed and abetted by a cousin from Iran involved in the Iran's Revolutionary Guards Quds forces.
And
so that's one example. The second example, sir, is the 7 recent pardons by the president.
That individual had never traveled to Iran.
Sir, you're raising the point about dual nationals who are citizens of the United States and citizens of Iran. The point I made...
My point, the question was for people who have not returned to the country or people that were born here.
I am not familiar with the travel patterns of Mr. Arbabziar, but
okay,
certainly
well, my time has expired.
A dual national.
My time has expired, so here's the point I'm making. I think it's fair to discriminate against somebody based on their activity, their actions, or their travel patterns, but not on their parentage. And I think the legislation runs the risk of disenfranchising millions of freedom-loving Americans, and I hope people will consider H.R. 4380 to remedy this, and I yield back my time.